it is configured to do a particular set of actions. But with the help of AI, it has been able to do a little bit more in terms of if you look at our solutions around document understanding, communications mining, etc. It has been able to do a little bit more. But with agents, what we're looking at is goal-based agents, which it can actually go and act independently, make dynamic decisions, and handle the end-to-end complex automations by itself. So wherever a bot was failing, where it had to rely on a human to come in and take actions on certain things, that's where an agent can come in. It can understand what is the right next step of action and then proceed with that. And as I mentioned earlier, agent is the brain in a complex automation that provides the decisions to the bot. The bot is where the actions happen. It's where it goes into various systems, fetch information, update systems, and of course the people in terms of how it can come in and help in the human in the loop scenario. Robots are rule-based. We know how that works. But what I want to focus on is the agents, where there are a couple of components when you build an agent and what an agent works on. The first is the context. So if you look at the right side and if you see the context here, so the agent requires the context to complete an automation. And when you say context, it could be your policy document, it could be your business documents, it could be your knowledge base, it could be standard operating practices, etc. So an agent can look at these contexts to decide what is your next step of actions. And then you have tools. Tools could be an automation which you've created. A tool could be an API into a third-party system. It could be other agents. It could be any kind of UI automations, etc. So it will use these tools to fetch the information to complete the workflow. And then, of course, you have an escalation wherein which if an agent is not able to proceed due to certain scenarios, it can reach out to a human to come in and handle that particular exception, approve it or reject it or anything like that. So these are the three main components. You have a context which provides information into an agent. You have tools by which it can fetch information from various systems. It could be UiPath automations, etc. And you have escalations wherein which a human comes and takes a look at it. And when you see the demo, you will see most of this in play. So let's take a look at an example here. This is basically a vendor invoice processing. So you have a bot. So in today's scenario, in a robotic workflow, you have an invoice which has come in and a robot is looking at this invoice. It has used IDP to fetch the information from that invoice. It is doing a two-way or a three-way match between a GR and probably a purchase order. And if it is not a straight-through processing, it might need a human to come in, investigate a dispute, and resolve that particular dispute. Now, that would involve coordinating with your vendors for updated information, analyzing what's required, sending out emails, etc. Now, that is where an agent can come in. So whatever today in a robotic workflow where you had a human to come in for a dispute investigation and a dispute resolution, you can have an agent which can actually look at these disputes, understand how to proceed with these disputes by looking at context. It can communicate with the vendors for updated information. And once you receive the information, it can analyze it, it can replan it, and again, go ahead with your processing. So that's where you're removing that in the human dependency, where agents can come in, they can think, and they're able to take it forward with your automation. So you have two main components from an agentic workflow perspective. So one is the agent builder. So this is where you come in and you create the agent. And let me show you a quick view of it. Just 1 second here. Let's look at here. There you go. So let's look at this one here. Okay. So this is how an agent builder looks. So you're going to create this agent in just English. So in this case, again, we have used the example of invoice matching. So you provide a goal to an agent and provide the instructions. You provide the prompts to an agent and all in English. So in this case, we are saying that, hey, you have to do a three-way match between an invoice, between a purchase order, between a goods received. You have to understand the details around this. Now, if there is an issue, we want you to write an email to the vendor in whatever format it is. In this case, we've used a 12, the size of the font is 12. So you could basically instruct an agent to do whatever is required in plain English. These are all prompts, and we do have best practices or recommendations on how these prompts should be. And in this particular case, I do not have a tool or a context, but here is where you will add a tool. So you would add a tool to go and fetch information from a particular system, run an API workflow, use an API to get connected to some other system. You could do all that. You could set up those tools. And you could, this is where you set up the context. So if you have to look into a business domain data, you would be using this. And of course, adding to a human in case you need a human to come and take a look at any of these exceptions. So these are the couple of components, and this is as simple as creating a workflow. You can run your evaluation sets and see how your model is performing, how your agent is performing. So this is all part of the studio interface, what you have. It's the agentic builder is kind of on top of the studio itself. Now, that was the first piece, but what gets more interesting is the orchestration piece of it. So we don't just stop at building an agent and running it, those agents independently. You'll have to look at how you have to orchestrate your agents. And your workflow is not just going to be one agent. It is a combination of multiple agents. It is a combination of robots. It is a combination of IDP, AI capabilities, and also human. So that is where we have introduced Maestro. This is something very unique to UiPath, wherein which you can build these agentic workflows using BPMN, business process model notation. Pretty easy, just drag and drop into a frame and just connect all these things. You can put your conditions, etc., and it's available for you to use it. And it is not just, and this is how it looks. So if you look at a typical scenario, right? So in this case, it's a snapshot, but you can see that there is a bot and IDP, which is basically responsible for extracting the details from the invoice. There are a couple of agents here. There's a summarize agent, there's a match invoice agent, there's an invoice investigate dispute agents, etc. And you also have conditions. What happens if it is approved, if it is matched, if it is not matched? You can stitch all these together in a workflow in Maestro and can be published. And not just that, it is not just about modeling. It is also about how you can monitor this, how you can operate this. You can look at all the audit trials, you can optimize it. So it is not just a PPMN scenario where you come and model it and then just implement it, but it is also about how do you operate it properly and how do you monitor it and look at all those trials and see how many LLM calls are happening. You can look at an entire workflow through Maestro. We do also have a couple of agents, pre-built agents, which are available for you to get started on. So there is an agent catalog which is available. We also have something on the UiPath marketplace, certain things which you can download and get quickly started with. That's available for you. And the main question, so why do you need UiPath for agentic automation? So there's quite a lot of players out there who are creating AI agents. It's available for you. We position ourselves as a controlled agency, which means that we are a specialized set of agentic tools and agentic orchestrations, which can be trusted with our enterprise-grade platform, which includes our cloud security, it includes orchestration, it includes Maestro, which I mentioned is a really key, unique factor in our agentic automation platform. Apart from that, you have the best-in-class automation and tools, which you are already probably using today. We have IDP, we have process mining, we have a lot of other capabilities which are available. You can integrate all that into the orchestration piece and have as one platform which can take care of all your complex automation requirements. Here are a few examples of how agentic automation can be helpful. These information are also available on the UiPath website, but across domains, across various departments, any scenarios where you really need judgments, where you need agents to come and take a look at past data, etc. Right? I mean, those are all good use cases for automation. As a matter of fact, we have already gone live with our first agents for a couple of customers. Most of those are on the finance and procurement side, but we are already in pilots. We have started engaging customers. Given that our platform is really new on agentic, it's only about like a month or month and a half since we launched it. We already have live agents in production and also in kind of pilot scenarios. That is where I wanted to stop and pass it over to Sojan and team. As Supriya mentioned, please do post your questions on the Q&A session, and we will definitely Q&A window, and we'll take it up in the question and answer session at the end.
Yeah. Thank you,
Thank
Prashant.
you.
So before we move ahead with the next agenda, so I just wanted to inform you all, if you have any queries during the session, please feel free to drop your queries in the comment box, and we will be answering those queries, each of them, at the end of the session in the Q&A session. So I'll just hand over the next agenda to Mr. Sojan. Over to you.
Yep. Thank you, Supriya, and thanks, Prashant, for this. And myself, Sojan. I'm a senior solution architect from Novigo IPA practice. So today we'll talk about something interesting, right, which we have accomplished using UiPath Agentic Automation. So let's talk a bit of a history, what's happening so far. Let's say we have buyers and vendors, they coordinate together to process their invoices, matching with their POs, right? So you might know that it's very honest, that's traditionally slow, error prone, and operation frustrating, right? Most likely in terms of delays in approvals from the buyer side or vice versa, and email exchanges, mismatches, it actually disturbs the business continuity, right? So for us, the objective is very simple: to make a very invoice processing frictionless and more reliable in nature, and make it very scalable across, right? So we have achieved something called smarter invoice handling for everyone, right? Through agentic automation, UiPath. Let me move to the next slide. Yeah, yeah. So how we made invoice processing work for everyone, right? So this is just a high level scenario for all of you can understand. So let's say it starts from vendor emails, the invoices to the buyer. And here, let's assume no portals or new tools is being introduced by the vendor side or the buyer side. It's just sending an email from the mailbox to the buyer, right? And next it goes to the buyer side, right? The buyer will have this agentic automation in place, wherein which the system is capable of reading the invoice and understand the invoice data, right? And next it goes to check if the PO does match with the invoices, right? It could be two-way match or blah blah blah, like that. And if it finds the system, if the agent finds any discrepancies, right, and the finance is being notified for an approval or reject the invoice or vice versa. And post all the decision is being made, then it goes to sending an email back to vendor saying that, hey, your invoice has been rejected or approved, or we need more information on this, or something fraud being detected, whatnot, right? So this is how it is for on a high level. So let's move on to the next slide, where on which we see how we have made a workflow with the tool set and the agent, right? So agent required some tools. It could be internal tools or external, or even the agents can be from UiPath, or it could be external also, right? So this agentic workflow, we can see on the start, it's email monitoring, right? Where on which we have some kind of API or integration service and build. Now the email, once we receive to the buyer side, we can sparse it or analyze the email and understand what exactly is happening to the email, right? It's invoice data coming in, and I need to act on it, right? The next is step is going to do the document extraction, definitely through documentation, IXP or document processing using UiPath. And next is PO agent, right? So this agent will see and understand what exactly in the PO, what exactly is in the invoice, and if any discrepancy is found, right, then it will act on it. So how? So it might go to refer to the policies or contract from the vendor side, and it will be handy for all this decisions to be making in place, right? Once it is done, then it goes to a PO balancer, wherein which it updates the ERP system. Right now, it could be ERP, let's say SAP or Oracle, that's an example, right? So it will update our system, which is a biosystem, to ensure that this is all done. And post that, it will send out a feedback loop, as in sends emails or any other external tools required to send out, like a Salesforce or whatnot, right? And we will have a real-time dashboarding, not just for the agentic but for the finance user, right? So how many invoices being sent by the vendor to us, and how many got invoiced, and how many got rejected, what are the status. So all this being done through this agentic workflow. You can see in the below there is something is showcasing you, right, how this being executed in the maestro process, right? You see that you can see from it's moving from the left to right. So in a live demo we show an action right now. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. So why make this agentic, right? So smart agents do work, not just bots following rules. So over here we have use studio, right? Generative AI. Then we have use agent builder with what Prashant was mentioning about agents. We have context prompting, making it adaptable, right, to cope up with the real world operations like finance area, right? So let's see why we have why it makes agentic. So let me just give a recap, right? In traditional automation, we do have RPA in place where we have robots or something APIs coming into picture. But when we call into agent, like this is something operate independently, right? Which have an option, which will have an intelligence to take decision, act, and respond to it, right? So that's what you call, and it's called everything, right? It could be an RPA bot, it could be something Salesforce, any application that we call as tools. And what agents is just, we're giving the memory like a human user to tell how to act and when to act and what to act, right? So those kind of scenarios. So it's more like a collaborative digital team, which we call as agentic, right? Got it? Yeah. So the next one is it understand the context. Yes, definitely. Makes decisions and act when is required for the human user, to the human user, right? So here also we have a custom frequently as a bot or agent bot as well. I'll not say bot, it's an agent. So wherein which it will give you support for that particular, let's say, buyer policies or something. The finance user like to look into many documents, right, to understand what exactly is written for this vendor, right, blah blah blah. For that we have a dedicated agent where you can just ask a question about this vendor. It will able to give you, okay, these are the documents from the vendor side. See, this is operating from this country and that, and this is a tax for this particular vendor. So all this support is given to the finance user as well. It's more transparent, right? Okay, so let's move to the next one. So why this matters for you, right? So less back and forth with vendors, definitely. So in a traditional way, we used to call them, we used to email them, we might reach out somehow using phone conversation to understand what's happening most of the time if an escalation is required. Before that, our internal teams has to go through each of the document and understand why we need to reach the vendor, right? So a lot of things like that. So that's going away right now with the agent because it has its own intelligence to act. So also the next one is approvals and clear. Approvals are quick and clear and tracked. Yes, definitely. Because in the buyer side, let's assume the finance approvals might take longer time because they want to go and search a lot of documents to say if I can approve it. Maybe a difference in terms of tax amount or something else. Maybe a wrong invoice has been placed. For that reason, we have our agent is going to bring up all this relevant data for the finance approver using action center action app, right? So the finance review let's say approval can just see, hey, blah blah blah, this is the data, should I approve it or not? So that benefits here to reduce the time, right? And the next is vendors are always informed also without manual workflow. This has been added before. So yeah, definitely it's been informed if their invoice is being addressed and it's going to be getting paid soon or what, right? And over one thing extra is like the finance and the procurement team saves a lot of time from the operation side, right, to this particular activity. So this will reduce human error a lot. So let's jump into a quick live demo that you will see exactly how this agent works together seamlessly and intelligently. So I'll give it to Vineeth from our team to showcase this demo. Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, thanks, Sojan. Thanks for the session. Yeah, so I just like to remind again, if you have any questions regarding the session from Sojan and Prashant, please feel free to post them in the comment box and we'll answer them at the Q&A session at the end. So let's move forward with the Vineeth session. Vineeth, over to you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Vineeth Shenoy, software engineer at Novigo Solutions. So, as you can see on the screen, this is just an overview of what we will be going through in this use case demo. So, as a vendor or as a buyer, I have 10 laptops ordered, and 8 of them have been invoiced. 2 are yet to be invoiced. Now, the vendor sends an email with the invoice attached. That is then received on the buyer's side, and that is what will trigger the process on Maestro. So, until the trigger happens, let me just give an explanation as how this process looks. Okay, so this is a Maestro process, the agentic process. And this is the mail analyzer part, which will analyze the body and contents of the mail and identify whether it's a valid invoice request or is it some sort of a vendor query or anything else. Only if it's an invoice, we will proceed with extracting the data using UiPath document understanding. Followed by which we will get the PO data from the master file, and in a real world scenario, it could be replaced by an ERP system such as SAP or Oracle. Followed by we will have match data from invoice and PO. It will perform an exact two-way matching. So there's no agent involved yet, okay? Because everything is quite deterministic. Nothing, non-deterministic. Everything is rule-based. After that, we will go ahead with PO balancer and notification. So let me just check if our process is triggered yet. I've received the mail at any point of time. Yes, it's triggered. So it's that simple. On Maestro under instance management, I can see the invoice, which instance is triggered. And as you can see, we have mail analyzer process. Let me just zoom in so that the process flow is visible to you all. Okay. So as I mentioned, the process that I made. There might be a slight delay from what's being processed and what's being reflected here, but as you can see, mail analyzer is completed and we are in the extraction invoice data part. So this is for the business user to look at the flow, and if you are a developer, you can trace everything over here in this tab below. So what are the values being passed and from which task, what output is passed, etc. So this is more like a developer pane, and this could be like the business user can visualize the process. Now, as that happens, let me explain the second flow as to why agent is only present in the second part of the flow. So if there is no match, only then I would pass my data to the agent, so that agent can find out what's the particular discrepancy in the invoice. And if there is truly a discrepancy, then the agent will analyze it. Find out using context rounding and backend data as to what is the possible resolution steps it can take to resolve it. And if it finds out something out of the box or something that it has never faced before, then it would ask for human validation. Once the human validation is completed, it will go ahead with either this or the second part. So it might be taking some time because of some internet issue, but it is running. As you can see over here, it is running the extraction process. So yeah, and this human level is different from our resolution agents validation. Okay, this is an action app. Over here, the validation happens within. So let's just wait. It is running. Let me just stop sharing my video in case if it goes faster. Okay, just a sec. And as you see, the process is more. There's no agent involved yet, okay, because it's quite deterministic. One thing to note is agent is not required everywhere. So you need to identify where actually needed and it is not. Otherwise, it's going to be very heavy. So when it's quite deterministic, you don't need an agent. A regular robotic process automation would suffice. It would balance the data in the back and it would see, okay, what's the changes and update them. Now, as that happens, let me send the second mail, and this would involve some kind of discrepancy. Just send this. And what is the discrepancy to be expected here? So let me just show. So in the backend, since we have sent two, order is now closed. And the vendor has sent another mail. Okay, the message is sent now. Now this one contains three more laptops and the purchase order is closed. And so it is a case of over invoicing. Okay, we wait for the mail to be received. That would trigger another process. Okay, I'm back. I lost a bit of network there. So the first process, the first instance is completed and the discrepancy instance has been triggered. You will have an analysis, and then extraction process using document understanding, and then finally we will head to the agent. Now, as this happens, let me show you another feature which we have used to help the finance team. This is autopilot for everyone. Most of you might have used this. Now, there's another thing called specialized autopilot for everyone, where you can give your own custom prompt, ground it to any useful data that, for example, in this case, it would be invoice processing policies. And there could be tens or hundreds of policies. And for the finance team, going through each of them while approving or going through these invoices, whenever human intervention is involved, is quite difficult. So the person can directly ask over here, for example, how can I resolve over invoicing? So this is a specialized autopilot for everyone. So it will directly search the context grounding sources. The files that have uploaded there will be accessed, and as you can see, it gives me accurate answers based on the policy that it has found in the backend. See, this is the same steps that the agent will take. So as you can see, it will also give you the sources, the files, the link to them. And as that happens, let me go back and see where's the process right now. Okay, in the document understanding. Just a sec.
Hey Vineeth, can you check your connection? It looks like a bit blurry. If you can hear me.
And yes, the document understanding process is completed.
Vineeth, you there?
Yes.
Vineeth, for us it looks a bit blurry. Can you check the connection?
Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. Should I zoom in more?
Yeah, maybe a little bit more. So the audience can see what is written there and
Yeah, sure.
have look and feel, right? Yeah. And also check your connection,
Yeah.
network connection, please.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the network is fine a bit. Just a bit.
Okay.
Okay, the
So a lot of
agent
memory is
has
being used, right?
been
Okay.
triggered now. Yeah, a lot of resources are being used right now. So yeah, as you can see, developer, you can access this log and see where the agent is right now and how many LLM calls have been done. So it has run the matching process. It tries to do a two-way match, and then it tries to use the same context grounding that the autopilot had used. So it finds the resolution steps, and then yeah, it checks for logs, finds out, okay, is this vendor known to do such errors in the past? Does he have a history of over invoicing? And then it feels that, okay, I don't need a human validation now, go ahead. So it has sent a mail to the vendor saying that, hey, I found this, please look into it. So no human intervention here. As you can see, agent has taken its own decision without human validation. So we'll wait for the reply mail. Until then, let me just send a third instance so that we don't waste some time. So I've just sent a third invoice, and this one has a very significant or a very important discrepancy. Okay, we'll see what it is and how the agent identifies it. And let's see, by now the agent has already sent the mail. Okay, so this is of the first instance, the one that we had done earlier. So this is a bot email. So there's no agent here. It's a fixed structured email. Now let's see for the second instance, the agent's email. It says, dear Acme Electronics, we have identified a discrepancy, and this is the invoice, this is the purchase order, and I have identified this discrepancy. And that, as per our record, this is not first instance. You have a history of doing so. So as you can see, the agent has come up with a decision based on the vendor's history and so on. Now, this may vary based on how the buyer likes to process a certain discrepancy, and this is what I have specified, and the agent has done accordingly. Now, let's see if we have received the third email. The third email must be sent. Yes, it is sent. And we are just waiting here for it to be received. Yes, we have received the third email. And simultaneously, the third instance will be triggered. And yes, you can run simultaneous instances as long as there are machines available for the bot to execute. So right now the robot is using my machine to execute this. Yes, and the second instance is completed. No human intervention, but the agent is involved. So let's see the third instance. It might get triggered any moment. Oh, it's already triggered. So let's go there.
Vineeth, you can close down some of the tabs if you're not using it or it's been used already.
Let me zoom in so that the process is visible. And let me just expand this slightly to see if we do get a human validation step from. And as this happens, let me show you a UiPath insights. This is an agentic dashboard. So there's no agent involved here, but we have designed this dashboard on UiPath Insights, which will show the buyer the number of purchase orders, how many of them are in partial status, how many of them are open, how many of them are closed. And similarly, what's the total PO value, total invoices, how many of the invoices have been flagged, what is the total purchase orders we have right now, how many of them are approved, rejected, and number of invoices processed. You can see today's invoices are also reflecting of June 19. So let's see if our DU process is almost done. Okay, it's still going on. Please do ask any questions regarding agent, agent builder, maestro, and agentic automation. And yes, this is from the second instance, the rejected email. So this is a bot generated email that your second instance was rejected. But let's see where this goes. And most of these processes, the user can see here, the action center. So any of the apps, like even in this case, if there's a human validation, it would come over here in action center inbox. So I'm waiting for the agent to run, and as soon as the agent runs, if it does ask for human validation, we might see that over here in our inbox. So, okay, the DU process is completed and we are now in the get PO from PO master. And yes, that's the process. Now we have to two-way matching, and based on the discrepancy, it will fail and send this invoice to the agent. And let's see what's the reason, because I have not mentioned the reason why this is going to get rejected. Okay, the agent is triggered. So why did the agent trigger this? The reason being, I have an invoice where the bank account number does not match. So the bank account number in the invoice and the one in our ERP does not match. So now we'll see how the agent resolves this, because this could be a potential fraud scenario, which means the bank account number could be sent by a scammer or a fraudster in the same email as the seller. So let's see how the matching and resolution identifies this issue, and will it ask for human escalation, because it will go through the vendor's history and see, okay, let's see if this is the first time that we have received an invalid bank account number. If so, it will take the steps accordingly, going through the history, finding that vendor and seeing, okay, it's finished that, and it'll be like, okay, we'll see if we have a history of invalid bank account numbers. And there you go, it has asked for human validation. And let's see, it should reflect here. And there you can see, it's an escalation task assigned to me.
Privacy contents have been updated to continue. Review the updated.
And yes, there's the validate agents, and it will show me the steps that the agent is going to take. I can change any step that I want, and the agent will accordingly change its decision. You might have a question as to whether the agent will learn from this. The answer is yes. And as you can see, the agent is like, hey, I found the bank account number with this, but in the ERP, we have this. As you can see, there's a very small error of 222 in the center. And now it's like, okay, in the context surrounding policies, it has told me to do these steps. Should I do them? If I change anything over here, it will change the steps. Okay, so let me validate. As soon as the validation is completed, it will go ahead. And that's the invoice processing. We will receive the mail anytime soon. I guess we can go ahead with the question.
Bixby privacy contents have been updated to continue. Review the updated items on your screen.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Vineeth. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us and bringing your expertise to this platform. It was very insightful information. Thank you, speakers. So let's jump to our Q&A session, and let me take a moment to view if any questions have come up in the comment box. If the floor is open for questions, please feel free to drop your queries in the comment box. And let me just check if we have any questions now. So yeah, okay. Is UiPath Maestro only available in cloud, or is it available in the on-premises? I'll hand over this question to Mr. Prashant. Prashant?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so UiPath Mastro is only a cloud solution at this point of time. If you look at the latest offerings from UiPath, the Agentic AI, as well as the Mastro, the generative AI, and a lot of other capabilities like in IDP, the modern experience or the active learning, right? So all these are all available only on cloud. So yeah, so as of now, it's available only on cloud.
Okay, thanks, Prashant. So, any more questions? If you have, please drop them in the comment box. We are open to answer them anytime. So, let's wait for a few more questions to come in. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. So, if you have any additional questions to be asked, or if you have any additional queries, please feel free to reach out to us in the email IDs will be shared in the screen now. So you can reach out to any one of these email IDs, and we'll be anytime happy to assist you on this part. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and we hope you are walking away with new ideas and inspirations on how AI-driven automation can reshape your enterprises. And before I conclude, I think if you have missed any sessions or any you want to watch it again, we will be sharing the recording soon. So we look forward to connecting with you again in the month of September as we continue this webinar series with even more forward-looking topics and transformative insights. So I think we will be ending the session now, and have a great day, guys. Thank you so much.